is the sister-in-law to Apocalypse, being the sister of his wife, Genesis. Also, yes, Apocalypse has a wife. Iska's mutant ability is probably one of the coolest out there, in a similar vein, but even more impressive seemingly than Domino's luck ability. Iska's power is that she can never lose. She was one of the chosen champions of Arakko who competed in the Otherworld tournament in Ten of Swords, and of course, won against her competitor, the current Captain Britain, Betsy Braddock. Her power, however, seemingly forced her to change sides in the war between the mutants of Arakko, her home world, her home island, I guess I should say, and the demons of Amenth, led by Annihilation. She abandoned the mutants of Arakko, joining up with the Amenthi due to the fact that the mutants were kinda on the losing side, and her power, of course, prevents her from ever losing. You have no choice when that's your power. While Punchline might be kinda new on the scene, she did go toe-to-toe with Harley Quinn, herself known for being a pretty deadly and unstoppable villain when she wants to be, so it's pretty impressive that when it came to Punchline versus Harley Quinn, Punchline came out on top. Punchline sliced Harley Quinn's throat and left her for dead in the sewers below Gotham during Joker War, but of course, Harley would recover. She got better. Still, Punchline's victory was surprising for her being such a new and unseasoned character and baddie, so I think we learned then that she is a force to be reckoned with, and is definitely a character for us to keep an eye on. I also feel like Alexis Kay's backstory, which was explored in one of the stories featured in the Joker 80th Anniversary 100-page Super Spectacular, was really fascinating. I do hope we get to explore her character more because I think her anarchistic nature and her outlook on the world are actually quite interesting. Punchline seems to enjoy fighting with stiletto daggers and dreaming up her own deadly brews of poison, even creating her own special brew of Joker venom for Batman, which gave him his own pretty awful trip during Joker War. You know you're in the future when you're recruiting a whole city to your cause. That is exactly what happened here with the Impossible City. The Impossible City was initially used as a base for a group of multiversal superheroes. Who was this group of multiversal superheroes? We don't currently know, but what we do know is after they left their base, seemingly for good for some reason, their prisoners escaped. This villainous troop, who had been trapped here, was known as the Ashen Combine. The Ashen Combine would then make the city their own base, and it would provide the backdrop for their final stand against the Avengers. When the Ashen Combine was defeated, the Impossible City actually offered to join up with the Avengers team. Oh yeah, the Impossible City is also aptly named because it is a sentient and living city as well. The Avengers accepted the offer, and as such the Impossible City was introduced as both the base for and a team member and ally to the Avengers team. Pretty cool. Oh my goodness, because this list is titled characters, I can actually include side characters who are just usually normal, non-powered and non-villainous folks as well. Well, I mean kinda normal, they do still exist in comics, so you know, but yay! Jeff Bannister is an ally and later friend of Wolverine's and a CIA agent who first appeared in Benjamin Percy's Wolverine series in issue number 1, and has appeared here and there throughout that series in spots. He teamed up with Wolverine to learn the source of and put a stop to a deadly new hallucinogen that had surfaced called the pollen. Together, he and Wolverine tracked down the Flower Cartel and the Pale Girl, who was initially thought to be a shared hallucination brought on by this substance, though we later learned that she was actually a real person. Hey! Jeff Bannister also has a daughter who suffers from cancer, or who suffered from cancer. After Bannister worked with and befriended Wolverine, Logan was actually able to help his daughter by getting her immediate access to the Krakoan medicines, which of course helped to cure her. Yay! Logan also gifted Bannister a Krakoan gate following their adventure together. Cute. You know me? I love a bromance. Just like Superman has Mr. Mixia's Pitalik and Batman has Batmite, Dick Grayson, the superhero known as Nightwing, now has his own imp superfan from the 5th dimension, known as Dixel. Though Dixel prefers to be known, of course, as Nightmite. Well, it might seem strange, I would say that Dixel is actually kind of also like a superhero at this point. He is an imp from the 5th dimension, he is a bit mischievous, but ultimately he is genuinely well-meaning and helpful, unlike most other imps who are much more mischievous or just downright troublesome, to be honest. Being an imp from the 5th dimension also means that Dixel can be super powerful, as he has magical reality bending and reality warping powers. Nightmite made his first appearance in the comics in issue number 98 of Nightwing back in late 2022, so he's still a pretty new character who hasn't made a ton of appearances yet. Genesis is a pretty important character who apparently has always existed, but who we never really knew about until recently. She made her first full appearance in the 2019 run of X-Men back in issue number 12. We would learn that she was the wife of Apocalypse, who was long ago lost to her husband, who ended up leaving another mutant island nation known as Arakko, the other half half, it turns out, of Krakoa, because they used to once be joined together and were known as Okara. Genesis is a strong warrior and an all-around badass. Basically, pretty much exactly what you'd expect Apocalypse's wife to be like. She also happens to be a mother, as it turns out that Apocalypse and Genesis together had a whole family of strong, also badass, and scary mutant children. When I was first introduced to him, I would have never thought I would ever include this character on a list like this. But over time, I actually came to be a pretty big fan, even though I still think his name is pretty ridiculous. But I miss him. Ghostmaker, initially in the comics, is a mysterious vigilante who seeks to usurp Batman as a protector of Gotham. But we would later come to know him as Min-Hwa Khan, one of the best friends and best rivals Batman has ever had. Wayne met Khan when the two were younger and both on their own separate journeys, training to become masterful vigilantes, each for their own separate reasons. While Batman has stayed in Gotham his whole life, his purpose for becoming a hero tied to the city, and of course the trauma that he experienced there, Ghostmaker actually travels the world, seemingly acting as a vigilante because of how much he prides himself on his feats and his accomplishments. Ghostmaker is often shown to be a psychopath, seemingly not capable of feeling any empathy for the people he saves, and motivated solely by pushing himself to the unimaginable. At least that's how he likes to advertise himself. However, we learn in the conclusion of one of his backstories featured in Batman Annual 2021 that he may actually have a more personal connection to vigilantism than he lets on. You should check out that whole backstory that leads up to that annual, it's really good. Katie, or Ruin Chen, is probably one of my favorite new characters in the MCU, if not just my full-on favorite now. Definitely of the normal people allies. Katie is the best friend of Sean and grew up with him, but later learns that her friend Sean has a complicated past that he's been running from for years. And in fact, Sean's given name was never even Sean, but instead is Shang-Chi. Katie might not have superpowers, but she comes with a can-do attitude no matter the odds. We also learned that despite the fact that Katie works as a valet alongside Sean, that she graduated from Berkeley, but isn't really doing much with her college degree. Katie loves driving fast and karaoke. Honestly, a woman after my own heart. Also, she's played by Awkwafina. I love Awkwafina. I know Tarn is still currently dead right now, but man do I miss him. He was such a great and intimidating villain. Tarn was a major antagonist throughout a good amount of the Krakoan era. Mainly the middle section, I'd say. Honestly, he's terrifying, so I think he deserves to be a villain to many different mutant supers. He's shown up mainly in both Hellions and X-Men Red, acting as a villain who also opposes another fellow villain who's still kind of villainous, but you know, is supposed to be, at least at the time, was supposed to be on the good side. Mr. Sinister and his team of unlikely heroes, the Hellions. Poor Hellions, oh, so sad. Tarn also fought against Storm, who had become regent of planet Arakko, formerly known as Mars. Don't worry though, Storm beat him in combat. Yes. Even though Tarn sat on the Great Ring of Arakko, their governing body, he still seemed like he was always planning something terrible, always up to some kind of vile mischief. And honestly, he probably was. He's basically like the Arakko version of Sinister, which makes him infinitely more dangerous and overall, I would say, worse. I mean, worse in a good way though, for a villain. Tarn made his first appearance in Hellions in issue number 6 in 2020 and was created by Zeb Wells and Carmen Carnero. Horticulture is probably one of my favorite new villain teams and, honestly, groups of characters we've seen thus far in the Krakoan era. I still love them, I always come back to them, they're just great. They're a team of elderly women who are scientists, specifically working in botany with plants. Their goal is to eliminate a large chunk of the human population in an effort to return the Earth to a more natural and quote-unquote pristine state. Their leader is Augusta, and members include Lily, Edith, and Opal. It is possible there could be more members of Horticulture as well. These are just the 4 women that we're familiar with based on their appearances in the X-Men comics, primarily the 2019 X-Men series and the tie-in Empire Limited series, where they appeared as enemies and for a short time reluctant allies. We've also learned through the Avengers side of things that however, Augusta's great niece, was a former member of the team who split off to do her own thing. Horticulture made their first appearance in volume 5 of the X-Men in issue number 3. That's the 2019 run, baby. That's about it. I'm your host Amanda McKnight. Until next time, you stay nerdy, YouTube.